Hi guys. Sorry. I was getting ready. Hello. I was getting ready to go live and then I got something stuck in my throat. And then I noticed that I had had to clean my teeth and, all those things. Welcome everyone. We have so much that we need to talk about today. There is going to be a lot on the topics. There is a lot of information that has come out in the last 24 hours. And I feel like every time I take a break, even for a second, there's more information that comes out. So this is going to be packed, filled with information. I'm trying to do my best to be concise as possible and to also be as accurate as possible. And I also am trying my best not to get into a lot of the speculation and rumors that are going rampant on social media. I'm trying to stick to facts that I can prove. And if I can't prove something, I'm sort of shying away from it. So there's going to be a lot of things that we're going to cover today. But I guess most importantly, for the reason why a lot of you guys are here is they finished up the autopsy and they have, excuse me, they have performed all of that. We have a COD and we also have properly identified it as Gabby. So today started out with a new and invigorated search for Brian Laundrie. So today was interesting because yesterday they called off every search for Brian. The law enforcement were saying that they had effectively exhausted all of their evidence or all of their abilities in this park in Carlton Reserve. And they decided that today, with the help of the FBI, even the governor of Florida provided all of his resources to all local law enforcement to help find Brian. There was a huge push put out by them. They even put out some videos kind of explaining what they were searching for.
Sent out in numerous teams. So we'll mix the resources and deploy them out.
So to be clear, before I start this, I'm sorry. Before we even, the police, the FBI, the families have not been issuing any interviews, any public statements. So a lot of the details that have been coming out in the last few days have been coming directly from press releases, which are like documents that are released either by the FBI or the various law enforcement company agencies. And then the lawyers for both families have been releasing statements as well. So there's not a lot of people on either side talking. And it's generally like this when there's an active FBI investigation. The FBI will tell all parties on either side, whether they're the person of interest or they're not a person of interest, to minimize what they say publicly about the case. And the people in Gabby's family specifically will be instructed not to talk about an active investigation. So this is what they were looking for today. As soon as Gabby was found, this was flipped from a state case in Northport and it became a federal case. Now the FBI is the primary leading investigating agency because the incident occurred at a national park, which is a federal park. So here is what they were looking for today.
Law enforcement partners assisting us in the search. The contingent that they've sent us to assist with is ATVs, UTVs. We have multiple drone operators that have been sent out in numerous teams. So we'll mix the resources and deploy them out so that if they encounter flooded areas or terrain that they can't access with these wheeled vehicles, we'll deploy our drones directly out into the wooded areas. We also have partners with Lee County Sheriff's Office with drones that operate at a higher altitude that has more advanced technology to zoom in and to see areas that are difficult to access on foot or wheeled vehicles as well.
What's the terrain like?
Terrain's very difficult. Essentially, 75% of it's underwater, and other areas that are dry, we're trying to clear. So we're expecting to get wet by the end of the day and check the entire area for Brian Landry.
So they brought in all of these, the drones, and which is fascinating because they found nothing again today. They were in an area that was 75% underwater, filled with alligators and snakes. And they went into the other side of the park, which was 17 miles away from the first entrance that they were searching in to begin with. And they did not find him. They even brought in like excavators. I mean, there was so much there. There was dogs, there was ATVs, and they found nothing. Part of me believes that this is like a wild goose chase that the Landry family has put investigators on so that they are not on the sniff or the smell of Brian. So that has led to a lot of Brian's sightings, specifically a sighting that occurred in Baker, Florida, which had a lot of people online talking, which was put out by Okaloosa County Sheriff's Department. So this man found a photograph on his, I think, camera, his trail cam. And it's hard because it's very fuzzy and it's hard to know if it's Brian. And so anyways, he says, I'm not saying that this is the guy, but whoever was on my trail camera this morning in Baker, Florida strongly fits his description of Brian Landry. Authorities have been contacted, but people in West Florida area should be on the lookout. So when they got the tip, Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office did an investigation, and they said OSCO did its due diligence in response to this report, and it's wrapping up an extensive search that took place in the area to include nearby farmlands. No one and nothing of note was located. The individual referenced in the post below has no known ties to our area. So they can't corroborate if this is him. They can't say yes, they can't say no. All they can say is that they were there, they looked, they couldn't find a trace of him. And they also made clear, like, he has no connections to this area, so why he would be here, they don't know. But they couldn't find any evidence on any of the farmlands. So that specific lead is dead at this point, because even if it was him a couple nights ago, he's not there anymore, is basically what they're saying now. There is verifiable evidence that he returned to Florida. So let's talk about, a lot of you guys have been asking about his, if anyone actually saw Brian when he got back to Florida, and they did. One of his neighbors, actually saw him and was talking. They did an interview with News 8. They said that he was mowing the lawn. He went on a bike ride with his mom. He helped his dad out in the garage with some projects. He was basically just doing normal things. The neighbor said that he was acting like nothing happened, literally nothing. Like the whole family was acting like nothing had happened. So his absolutely was seen by the neighbors in the area. And then he actually, when he made it into the Florida, the affidavit, the van's license plate was scanned on a license plate reader. So I didn't know that these were actually a thing, but in the state of Florida, they have license plate readers that are installed at exits of the interstate highways. And her license plate of the van was scanned at Northport, Florida, at 4343 Wabasso Avenue at Interstate 75. It entered the city of Northport on November 1st, 2021 at 10:26 a.m. So he was there at the residence and he got back to Northport at 10:26 in the morning, if he was driving and he was driving, it would have been unlikely that he would have driven and only been like a few hours away and taken a night and like slept. You know what I'm saying? I'm guessing he drove through the night. But that's it. And then they say that Brian's family stated that the subject was not at their residence. So that was Gabby, and that they did not know her whereabouts, and they refused to allow Brian to speak with law enforcement and directed the officers on scene to speak with their attorney. So when the officers, did she own the car or did she rent it? She actually is the listed owner of the van. Is he listed as a dangerous fugitive? He is listed as wanted by the FBI. So, well, he's a person of interest. So a lot of you guys have been asking about that aspect. So let's go into that. Let's go through the coroner's report, or the report that was put out by the FBI. So this says that, and this was issued by Denver's, the Denver FBI put this out just a few minutes ago, maybe half an hour ago. It says that the National Park Services, they've completed the autopsy. It was done with like all these other agencies. They were located and recovered consistent with the description of Gabby Petito. The remains were transported to Teton County Coroner's Office for a forensic examination to confirm identity and determine the manner and cause of death. They say that the remains they confirmed are those of Gabrielle Venora Petito, her date of birth, March 19th, 1999. And they say that the initial determination for the manner of death is homicide, but the cause of death remains pending final autopsy results. So obviously a homicide means it's not a natural death. So they say that the FBI's commitment to justice is at the forefront of each and every investigation. The FBI and our partners remain dedicated to ensuring anyone responsible for or complicit in Miss Petito's death is held accountable for their action. Mr. Brian Laundrie has been named as a person of interest. Anyone with information concerning Mr. Laundrie's role in this matter or his current whereabouts should contact the FBI. They say the forensic search was concluded on the Spread Creek dispersed camping area, and law enforcement has released the area. The FBI is seeking information from anyone who utilized Spread Creek dispersed camping area between the dates of August 27th through the 30th, and who may have had contact with Miss Petito or Mr. Laundrie, or who may have seen their vehicle. The Spread Creek dispersed camping area is located within the Bridger Teton National Forest on the east boundary of the Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming. They said that you can send photos directly to this link that they've set up. They have a poster that they've released for seeking information about Brian. They have a poster for Gabby. And they say Denver FBI thanks the public for their continuing support of this investigation and the valuable tips that have been submitted. So one thing that I noticed right off the bat was they said that they were going to hold anyone accountable for or complicit in Miss Petito's death. So I'm thinking that complicit, meaning you did nothing to prevent it, or you did nothing to help her, or something like that, or you had information that could have helped her and you didn't go and get her. I don't know. A lot of talk has been directed around his parents and whether or not they could be held responsible. And if Brian is responsible and if they are helping him avoid the FBI talking to them, avoid detection, if they're helping him hide from FBI because he committed this crime, they could be charged for, aiding and abetting, for aiding a fugitive. He is considered, I guess, in a way, a fugitive. They put out this poster. So it says the FBI, in coordination with the National Park Service, the Teton County Sheriff's Office, Jackson Police Department, and other state and local law enforcement agencies across the country are investigating the disappearance of Gabby. She was last seen with Brian. She was on a cross-country road trip with her boyfriend, visiting national parks in Colorado, Utah, and Wyoming. She and her boyfriend were driving a Ford, and if you have any information, you are supposed to call the FBI. So he is officially labeled a person of interest now in connection to the homicide. So they haven't released like what the matter, how it was taken out. And some people have stated that, it just means that it was like an unnatural cause. Generally, this is used from a criminal standpoint, meaning that there was criminal intent with it. So it's not generally used just to say that someone else hurt someone else, whether or not there was actual intent. Yeah, John Walsh was on Anderson Cooper last night. John Walsh, who is, he did America's Most Wanted. His son was also a victim, and he said that he'll be helping and aiding. He believes with his whole heart and his gut that Brian is not gone. He believes that Brian is on the run. He believes that Brian is evading law enforcement, and he believes that his parents are helping him. So I'm inclined to believe that the fact that the parents have changed their stories so many times that there might be some truth to that. So the other point I was going to make is that the Laundries actually made a statement, and it was may Gabby rest in peace. May Gabby rest in peace was the Laundries statement. It's so sad. So they were sending them on this wild goose chase into this area of this park reserve, which they resumed this morning at Carlton Reserve on the Venice side. And let's see, what's this? They shut down flight patterns. So at one point in time, they cut out and they said that there was a flight restriction went into effect while they were over the reserve. So no one was allowed to fly over that area while they were searching for Brian. And they were using drones and they were using all kinds of things, and they haven't found him. Okay. And then there's been a lot of discussion about Brian's car. Okay. So yesterday, police impounded his car. Now, the car has a lot of questions around it because one, when Brian returned, he did not have a car. All right. When Brian came back from Florida, he was driving Gabby's car, Gabby's van. The van did not belong to Brian. Gabby owned the van. They already seized Gabby's van, and all the evidence was taken out, and like they did all of the forensic analysis of her van. And then interestingly, they took his car. But the really interesting thing about that we're having some trouble figuring out is who the car is actually registered to, because when you run the license plate number, it's not registered to his dad. It's not registered to Brian. It's registered to a woman that lives in the area. Some people have said that maybe they bought this car recently and they haven't gone through the title registration. I don't know. The reason why they impounded this car, I don't know. He never owned this car before. When you look at the registration of this car online, which you can pull by going just about anywhere, this was not a car that was owned by him. The woman that owns this car has owned this car for years, like since 2015. So I don't know where the car came from, if it was for sale at one point. I don't know if it's because the DMV is behind on posting registrations. but they took the car and seemingly put it in a parking lot. And it just seems like an odd place to have the Mustang sit. When they said that they were impounding it, my brain was like, impounding is like if you have a ticket, or if you have like if you're parked somewhere and you're not supposed to be parked there. But to be impounded, it could also be that the car was stolen or was also, crime scene evidence. Yes, he did drive it. Brian's family, I don't know. So Brian's family was planning a press conference, and the press conference has been canceled. So yesterday, the family came out and they said, we're going to do a press conference. It's going to be at, I think, 1 or 2 o'clock at the Hyatt Regency in New York. And then right after the raid at the house, so that his whole house got searched, the attorney for the Laundries talked to the FBI, and he issued a statement to one of the reporters and basically said, after speaking with the FBI, we will not be having any further comment on this case. And that makes me believe that they are under scrutiny. And the fact that her cause of death has now been labeled suspicious, the less they say, the better. Because honestly, if they say anything at this point, it's bad, right? So now I guess we know why they didn't want to cooperate with police to begin with. But this is what Kristen Thorne said yesterday. She's a local reporter down in Florida. She said that the Laundrie family has canceled his press conference, which was supposed to be held at Tuesday at 1 p.m. He made his decision after speaking with the FBI tonight. Whatever that means. Let's see. All right, so something else that came up. Yes, the cause of death was listed as an H, correct. In my state, the DMV has you remove your plates before you sell a vehicle. That way the new owner has to switch it over to the name. So I find it odd that's in someone else's name. So the license plate number was registered still in this other woman's name who owned the car for years, has had this in her name for years. Someone was saying, well, this was the car he owned before he moved. His name wasn't on this car. And as far as I could tell, Brian doesn't have any cars registered in his name. And his dad only has like one car registered in his name. So I don't know where this car came from. Was it like a family friend? Was it like his friend's car that he was borrowing? Maybe? I don't know. COD was H, or the M word, I guess. Okay, and this was another thing I did a tweet about this, and I also did this I put this on my Instagram, is I find it really odd that their son is missing and they're not interested in finding him, and they're not out there pounding the pavement to find their son. They haven't left their house. They haven't moved. They're not doing anything. And their story about him missing is all over the place, you guys. So if you remember last week, she's declared missing on the 11th. And then on Tuesday, they're like begging everyone to make a statement. Why isn't Brian talking? On Wednesday, Brian's attorney puts out a statement and says that Brian, being a person of interest, he's not going to speak about things. Thursday, Gabby's family again is imploring anyone to give any information. Friday, they're still imploring people. Suddenly, everything is heating up. It's starting to look like, one, something really bad has happened to Gabby, and two, there's a lot of heat that comes down on the Laundries. And then suddenly they tell the FBI and call them to their house on Friday night, and they're like, Brian's missing and he's been gone since Friday or since Tuesday. Their story about where Brian went and how he got there also changed. So the first time they spoke to the FBI, they said that he drove, then it was that he walked, then it was that he drove, and then it was that they went there looking for him on Wednesday when he didn't return, and they picked up the car. And they say that they picked the car up because there was a note from police saying that if they didn't take the car was going to be impounded. So the attorney yesterday put out a statement and said that the car had been returned on Thursday, but the media that was at Brian's house has video footage of the car being back at the property on Wednesday. So if your son is missing and his only transportation to return home is this car, and you take that car because of a note from the feds, and then you don't tell anyone that he hasn't returned until a Friday, it doesn't make any sense at all. Their time frame of when the car has returned also makes no sense. And they've just been very all over the place. Not to mention, if your son has been gone since Tuesday, why are you allowing a lawyer to release a statement for him on Wednesday, right? Why are you allowing a lawyer to speak for your son on Wednesday and on Thursday, seemingly stating that you know where Brian is, but then you don't know where Brian is on Friday? Correct. They literally said that they brought the car back on Wednesday, and on Thursday, and the car was back on Thursday. So another thing that's come out is there's new information that has been dribbling out about that incident that happened in Moab, Utah, between Gabby and Brian. So yesterday, Fox News, through a Freedom of Information Act, receives the 911 call. In the 911 call, you see that Brian is labeled as the aggressor. All right. Well, they also received this statement that was made by someone that saw what was going on. And I know that this is really hard to read, so I'll read it for you. This is by someone named Chris, who was on scene and saw them when this happened. It happened at 4:30 on the 12th of August. And she says, at approximately 4:30, I arrived at Moonflower while standing on the south side of the street. I noticed a man and woman appearing to have some sort of dispute. They were talking angrily or aggressively at each other, and something seemed off. At one point, they were sort of fighting over a phone. I think he may have taken the female's phone. It appeared that he didn't want her in the white van he got into. He drives it says, and then she followed him. And he says at one point she was panicking or punching him in his arms and trying to get inside the van. So she was he was taking off in her van. He was trying to steal her phone, trying to take her van. And then she owns the van and she doesn't want to be left without her phone in her van. So she's chasing him, trying to get into her car. And then she climbed in over him on the passenger side, onto the passenger seat. So he locks her out of the van and she has to climb in through the window of his driver's side and goes over her. And she said, I heard her say, "Why do you have to be so mean?" I wasn't sure how serious this was. It was hard to tell if they were sort of play fighting, but from my point of view, something definitely didn't seem right. It was as if the guy was trying to leave her and maybe take her phone. not sure, but wanted to help out. And I noticed another person had called this in. And as I left the store, I noticed a police officer and gave him my information. So this was provided by the person that saw, and then this actually made me look through some of the photos of the incident. And you remember he had a scratch on his face, but I noticed that on her arm, on her lower, like where her tricep would be, it looks like there are fingerprints, like either he grabbed her or slapped her. It's red. And you can see right here and right here, it's like lines, almost like fingers. And she also has a gash across her face. Which I can't find. She had a gash across her face as well. So for some reason, let me see if I can find it. Here it is. So she has a gash that's running across her face right here, which makes no sense to me. Like, it's running from here all the way down and it's kind of going like this. And when she's talking to the officers, she says that he grabbed her face and that he did something on her face. And she said it hurt because she could feel it. And you could see it because it was like shimmering when like her, when tears were falling down her face. So at the time, they probably didn't have all the information that they needed. They separated the two of them. I did go through their actual, like, the video of the dash cam. And I was like kind of shocked because there's a better picture where you can actually see the line right here on her face. I uploaded a video where it just like goes through the two of theirs accounts. And so he tries to really deflect any responsibility. And he tells them that she got mad at him because things were dirty. And he said, I had sand on my feet and I can't help that my feet are dirty. And I kept thinking, you can't help that your feet are dirty. You can help if your feet are dirty, Brian. You can literally help if your feet are dirty. You can wipe your feet off, right? So he was saying like, and then he was like, I wasn't overtly physical with her. I wasn't trying to do anything. She was coming for me. One of the witnesses said that they had her back. He took her backpack and he put it out on the back of the van and gave it to her. And while talking, the female officer who was at the scene said that she told Gabby that their relationship sounded really toxic and that she probably would, should think about evaluating the circumstances that they found themselves in today and think about leaving him. The officer said that she opened up to Gabby about her own experiences with someone like Brian in her life. And there wasn't anything more, I guess, they felt that they could do because Gabby and Brian were lying. So Gabby took the fall, took all of the blame, took all of the responsibility. He said it was all her fault. He let her take the blame. And multiple officers tried to convince Gabby that maybe she needed to leave Brian. So that's the tough stuff. There's been people online. Yeah, he did. He smooth talked the officers. He fist bumped them. Part of me wonders if they might have charged her, if it would have helped in this situation. So, okay. So then I was thinking, what else was there today? There's been a lot of discussion online about why people are so interested in this case, what it is about this case, why everyone's focusing on this case versus other missing persons cases, why people are so stuck on this case when there's all these other missing people like missing. And Gabby was trending today. Gabby, actually, Joyce Meyer, someone said that Americans have like what's called missing white woman syndrome or something. So people are trying to say that the media only cares about when white women are missing, and they don't care about, because there's like been 700 missing Indigenous like women and children, girls that have gone missing from the same area that the media doesn't talk about. And, you know, it's hard because with Gabby's situation, I think she put everything out so publicly, and she was documenting all of this on her Instagram. Before she went missing, she had double digits in her following. I think she had like 10,000 followers. Not a ton, but enough. She was posting on multiple different platforms, and the van life world is very, you know, interesting. A lot of people file that. She was documenting her entire trip, which was unique in this case. And I think for a lot of people, for a lot of women, this woman put this out, which I thought was actually kind of true. And I'm not discounting that other people go missing. I'm not discounting that things happen to other people. And I'm not discounting that the media focuses on specific things and doesn't focus on others. I think there was layers of this case that were so utterly confusing. They leave on a trip together. One person comes back. The other person is nowhere to be seen. The person that comes back has the other person's car. He doesn't report the person for 10 days. The person had been very like all over the place on her Instagram. This woman said this on her Facebook. She said, "We all know a Gabby Petito or have been her, stuck in an abusive relationship with a man who continues to make us feel crazy or look crazy. A man who triggers us with abusive, horrible behaviors and then faults us for our responses." I think that's why this case hit home for so many women. We either know or have been a woman stuck in the cycle of abuse and struggle to get out, confused as to whether this is love or not, because some days are good. Gabby's story should be a huge wake-up call to all of us that one still in these relationships should leave. You are not crazy, and it's not your fault that the relationship is failing. You're being broken down and controlled. Leave now before it's too late. Find your strength. You're in danger. Narcissists are dangerous. These types of men are not capable of love. They will never love you. So I think in a lot of ways, this case resonates so many people because of this fact. We either know Gabby or we were Gabby if you're a woman, or even if you're a man in a relationship like this. Thank you, Daphne, for your super sticker. And Jeremy says that he thinks that the Everglades swamp story is a ruse. So the Gabby story is so common for girls her age. So I think for a lot of us, it's either we're Gabby, we have a daughter that's Gabby, we have a friend that's Gabby, we have a sister that's Gabby. I think a lot of us, especially at her age, it's tough. That's when I was with the narcissist abuser in my life was at that age. I couldn't identify the red flags. So, the way that he was making her feel like it was all her fault, like his feet are dirty and he's making her feel like it's an unrealistic reaction for her to be mad that he's bringing dirt into a van that they live in. I think it's a normal response for most people to be upset if you bring dirt into your house, but that's just me. But he's deflecting. So I think when you see the behavior, and I think for a lot of people, that dash cam footage or the body cam footage was another aspect that made people see either themselves or someone they know and actually physically see and witnessing the gaslighting that was happening by Brian and how he was minimizing and taking no responsibility for what he was doing and making it seem like to law enforcement that Gabby was crazy. I think that was another component. It's tons of layers. And it is unfortunate that there are so many women in that area and girls that have gone missing and there's been no media attention. It's heartbreaking that there are missing children all across the country that nobody is utilizing or getting this kind of traction from. It's unfair in a lot of ways when one person gets the attention and you have all these other missing people that want that attention too, and they want people to know and look for their loved one too. I think it's just hard because you don't, it's not fair for sure. So I'm not paying attention to what anyone says really in the chat right now. Something that has happened a lot is that the police in this case have gotten a lot of flack. So if you have been paying attention, Northport Police Department has been getting a lot of heat for how they handled the situation with Brian. They are frustrated people are frustrated thinking like, how could you lose Brian where you had one job to watch Brian? Josh Taylor, who is the police information, like the guy that does all the speaking for the Northport, he said, hey, look, people with actual knowledge of laws covering the issue, the facts will come out. I think it's hard because when you are watching something happen in real time, you want answers and you want it now. And that's not how law enforcement works. And it's frustrating. If you've ever been a victim of a crime, you can probably attest to the fact that whatever the agency was that you worked with, whether it was the Federal Bureau of Investigations, a local law enforcement, Department of Homeland Security, Department of Justice, whoever it was, the wheels of justice move slowly. And in this day and age, this was a social media case in so many ways because people wanted answers right away and people felt like they knew more, they had more information, and that they were doing the wrong thing. I think the problem with this specific case is that they were slow. They didn't have a body. So, and Brian wasn't cooperating, and he was a person of interest in her disappearance, but there at that time wasn't evidence of a crime. And you can't force someone to talk unless you can connect them to the crime. You can't force them to do a lot of things. Could they have done a better job keeping tabs on him? Sure. I think the parents did a really good job too, though, of obscuring the situation by not being honest with law enforcement. I think that the parents really interfered in this in a way where they didn't allow him to speak at all with anyone. And then they were deceitful about his whereabouts for days. Hope says that police need to be better educated to recognize DV. Why did they let him move with the sightline of her? Yeah. Yeah, they haven't released the cause. That will come out pending the autopsy final results, they said. The fact that they have a cause and they can figure it out, I'm guessing there's only a few things it could be, but I'm not going to speculate. So they've concluded their search for Brian today, and they found nothing. And the current plan is to return Wednesday with similar search efforts. Northport says the search of Carlton and nearby lands concluded for the evening. Nothing of note. The current plan is to return Wednesday with a similar operation. We join the FBI in asking for continued public assistance by sharing any info with them and the FBI. The family of Gabby's family said that they will be going and making public statements once Gabby is returned. They said once Gabby's home, they will speak. So I'm heartbroken, you guys. This has been a tough case, and I feel so sad for Gabby. Like, she was only 22, and the really disconcerting part of this for me is that there's literally men all over Twitter acting really disturbing, saying that she deserved it because she didn't leave him. And that if a woman is so stupid as Gabby, she deserved it. And I'm like, how does anyone say these things about someone? What kind of toxic society do we live in where people feel comfortable making comments like that about someone who is a victim? I'm never going to be the kind of channel that would ever blame someone in a situation like that. But when I was reading this, like when I was looking at the hashtag on Twitter, I saw all of these comments like this. I had to block multiple men for retweeting me, making these kinds of comments about women being hysterical and blaming everything on men. And I'm like, is this like incels doing this? Do people actually think this way? Why would you defend this kind of behavior? Like, if you were a good man, you would be telling your friend, you shouldn't be doing that to your girl or to your wife, right? You wouldn't blame the wife for what the husband does. Out of the heart, the mouth speaks. Men that believe these things would probably also cause these events. It's been crazy too, and there's been a lot of fake accounts that are coming up. There's been a lot of false reports that have put out. There's been a lot of fake sightings made. I have to temper a lot of the information that comes out just because a lot of times in situations like this, people want to be part of the story. So they will make things up just to get on the TV, whether or not it's factual or not. There's been this really bizarre obsession with the van that was located at on the 27th. And I think people want in some way to try to say that this video is going to give us every piece of information. And it's just not. Even if Brian was in the van, even if Gabby was in the van, that still isn't telling us really anything. Her flip-flops were on the ground. Even if the van door opened, that doesn't tell us anything either. Everyone that was at the property or at that area that they've interviewed so far has stated that the van was all but abandoned for 3 days. And that kind of matches the story that Miranda gave to when he went hitchhiking. And she was on Good Morning America. I can replay this again. But I think what might have happened is he left after it happened and he was going to ditch the van. And I think he probably after a few days might have realized I shouldn't have done that. I can't leave the van. Then I'm going to even look more guilty or whatever. And he went back to the van. But this was, I'll replay this for you guys so we can recap this situation, because Brian told them that he had been camping on his own for a couple days, and this was on the 29th.
So I just want all the maps and the facts and in one place. Okay, this is the text I sent my mom when we dropped him off. This just has like the date in it and the timestamp. So we dropped him off at 6:09. But as you can see, we picked him up at 5:54. This is off my mom's because my texts don't go back this far. You know, it says we dropped him off at 6:09. So this is where we picked him up. We picked him up in Coulter Bay and we dropped him off by this dam. He was hitchhiking. There was no van. Gabby was not with him. It was just him. So this is what the dam.
This is actually a really good point. So I think he was trying to make an alibi, like he had gone camping by himself and he came back and she was dead. Yeah. I think in some way he was trying to have an alibi. And I think the hitchhiking is an alibi because then it has someone like Miranda saying, I saw him on the 29th and he told me that his fiance or his girlfriend was back at the campsite working on social media. And one of the things that I'm noticing about Brian is I think he did not like that Gabby was spending time and effort on creating content. I think he might have wanted to just be in the moment and not have to focus on creating content. And I think he had his idea of what the way that he might have wanted to spend his time. And one of their last fights was about social media and how he didn't believe that she could do this. So he's putting her back with the social media that he doesn't believe in her doing. And he's hitchhiking so someone can see him in an area away from the van.
So I just want all the maps and the facts and in one place. Okay, this is the text I sent my mom when we dropped him off. This just has like the date in it and the timestamp at 6:09. So this is a map of Grand Teton National Park. During our ride, he said, well, before he got in the car, he said, I wanted to go to Jackson. So this is Jackson. Like right there, you can see it says Jackson, south of the park, right? Jackson Halls.
There's two routes he could have gone. So he was up here and they drove down here where she dropped him off. And then they were going to take this route. But his route was going this way and her campsite was over here. So I think he went camping for a couple days for an alibi. He went back to the campsite. Maybe he injured her. Maybe they got into a really big fight and maybe he strangled her or she was very hurt and he didn't help after that happened. And instead of going back to help her after everything happened, he just left her there. Maybe that's what happened. I don't know. Until we know the whole story, it's hard to figure this out.
Commonly referred to as well. So I said, you know what? We're going to Jackson. Hop in. You know, he's very nice. He offered us $200 to wear his shoes.
Gabby's mom disputes that Amanda Baker sighting because it doesn't fit the time frame that he could be in Jackson Hole 2 days before he arrived in Florida. This is Miranda. Are you saying that this isn't valid? Because I don't know. He could have been home within that time frame easily. There's 30 days, 31 days in August. If this was August 29th, if he got back to the van on August 29th, August 30th, September 1st is 2 days away. It's a 36-hour drive, less than a 36-hour drive. He could be back by the 1st. But
and he was very nice during the trip, you know, very calm. We were making small talk. He was agitated when I said Jackson Hole, okay? So we were going south to Jackson. There's no other place in the Tetons called Jackson. Why he became agitated, I don't know.
what is said? Many have said that Miranda is not credible. Claims that she's provided info in other cases with the police in the past and proven to be untrustworthy. I haven't seen anything. She was interviewed by Good Morning America, and she did provide this information to Gabby's mom. Doesn't believe Miranda. Interesting. Where did Gabby's mom speak out about this? Because Gabby's mom hasn't made public statements anywhere. Does anyone know where that statement was made? Should I Google it? I saw her interviewed on Good Morning America. She was on Good Morning America. I don't know. And Miranda is her name, has time. Yeah. I don't see anything that has her mom saying that she doesn't believe her. Let me see. Because her mom, the parents haven't really been saying anything for days, so I don't know. Yeah, I don't see anything. No, I didn't see anything. She did speak to the FBI, yes. What I read or heard was that her mom didn't believe her, just that she was not putting her focus on someone's TikTok and keeping the focus on Gabby, finding Gabby. Yeah. I think the stuff that's happening online, it's very easy to get like distracted about everything. Did you guys watch Gabby's dad on Dr. Phil? You know, the Facebook groups are good and bad, and the Reddits are good and bad. There's a lot of sleuths right now that want to find evidence and want to crack this case. And I think it's great to want to help investigators, but it's hard because, you know, the van helped them pinpoint where to look, but it's also they had a general idea of the van being there because other people were there. They just didn't have a photo of the van. Like the couple that has the GoPro camera footage, they weren't the only ones that came forward with that video, like with the evidence that they were there. Like they were already concentrated in that specific area before that video came out. That video just helped them narrow down like where to search. I don't know why they're so Gabby's dad said that she wasn't diagnosed with OCD, that she wasn't diagnosed with anxiety, that she didn't have any mental health issues. So I don't know. He felt like she was saying that more from like a colloquial standpoint. His sister is on Gabby's family side, so her family isn't speaking to her. Gabby's dad apologized to her on Dr. Phil and pleaded with her to talk to the family. The feds were actually at her house yesterday. I don't know if you guys saw that. So after they searched Brian's house, they went over to Cassie's house and they were outside of her house for some time. She was on Good Morning America releasing some final messages from Gabby to her nephews or to her sons. Caitlin says, ugh, I have OCD. People say it all the time. It's just a saying. Yeah, people say something based on a symptom. Yes, it's used colloquially just to help someone understand what they're trying to say. So yeah, the stuff on Facebook is tough because, and even on Reddit and on Twitter, there's all these people that are like, I saw Brian. And like, there's a TikTok guy that said that they found Brian hanging in a tree, which is not true. There has been, people will make up a lot of things. And I'm not going to lie, the deer cam footage, I didn't think looked anything like Brian. I thought his face looked way different than Brian's. I thought he looked like he was too large. Brian is really lean. And I felt like the guy that was in the deer cam footage weighed too much to be Brian. I didn't think they had the same ears. I didn't think they had the same chin. Like his chin isn't as prominent as Brian's. The leads in Alabama turned out to be nothing as well. Sky says, I have been clinically diagnosed with the BPD and OCD, and it can take a while to properly diagnose, and you're given therapy and medication for it. You have to take meds every day. Yeah, so I have ADHD, which I've spoken openly about, and I've told you guys that I'm not formally diagnosed with OCD, but I have what my psychologist says are OCD tendencies because it's a comorbid with ADHD. So if I'm not properly medicated for my ADHD, I'm definitely like symptomatic in my OCD symptoms. But the primary issue is the ADHD and not the OCD, if that makes sense. And I didn't get properly treated and diagnosed for that until I was 38 years old. So, and I also at Gabby's age was dealing with anxiety and with a lot of similar things that she talked about. So I think, I think it's just tough. You don't know what you don't know. And she wasn't on any medication. Yeah. Like I have ADHD and I have OCD tendencies about my throw pillows. If I'm not on my medication, I'm very particular about like clutter. I hate clutter. And if I'm on my meds, clutter doesn't bother me. And then when I'm on my meds, I remember that clutter bothers me when I'm not on my meds, so then I feel like I should be worried about clutter. It's just a cycle. So my current situation here is, yeah, I'm 42. I'm a boomer. And women specifically that have diagnoses, and if they're like really smart, they can be harder to diagnose. If you have a higher IQ, it's easier to like skirt by and cover up and mask your symptoms. It's all just, it's tough. So at the end of the day, today we have we know the cause, or we know the manner, which is H. We know it's her. We know that Brian is still missing. I don't think that Brian is in that. I mean, I have to believe they have to have some sort of credible reason why they would still be continuing to search so much in this one concentrated area. But why would he stay there if he was alive? I feel like he would leave. I feel like he wouldn't stay there. I don't know. Part of me just doesn't feel like he's there. I don't feel like he's there. I also don't feel like he would hurt himself. I feel like, do any of you guys remember the Scott Peterson case? Scott Peterson was when I was in my early 20s, 23, 24. Brian actually reminds me a lot of Scott Peterson. Scott Peterson couldn't stop yapping and was playing like the good missing husband. So there was that. But everyone in America knew that Scott Peterson did it. Like literally everyone. Like everyone thought that Scott did it. And Scott was out in public. Nancy Grace was literally on her show every freaking night screaming at Scott Peterson. He was getting accosted. The media was parked outside of his house every single day. His family was complicit and they enabled him. And he lied and he had that mistress and he went on the run as soon as the heat turned up. And people that actually think that Scott Peterson is innocent and that he's going to get this new trial, like maybe he'll get a new trial, but Nancy was hilarious when it came to Scott Peterson. She hated Scott Peterson. And Nancy is showing up for this case too. Yeah, poor Lacey and Connor. But people that literally think that Scott didn't do this, like the younger Gen Z, that really think that there's like no evidence. There was so much circumstantial evidence that he was the one that brought her to that freaking, like, where was she found? In the bay? She was like right outside of where he went fishing. Like, what were the chances that he was in the same area on the same day where this body was found, in the same area as where it was found? You know, she disappears on Christmas Eve. It's Kat says, I don't believe that he's in that reserve. The parents have lied to the police and sent them on a wild goose chase. Yeah, she had cement strapped to her and he had been seen buying cement and buckets. Like, there was something that some sort of fibers that were like in his boat that were connected for her. it's like people want to just ignore all of and then they want to ignore the fact that when he was about to get arrested, he literally dyed his hair blonde, packed his wallet fat full of cash, and drove down to California. And I'll never forget this. He was caught right outside of a golf course right by where I worked. So when Scott Peterson was caught and apprehended on the run for what happened to Laci, he was at this golf course golfing, and it's right outside of La Jolla. And it's this really famous golf course. I can't remember what it's called. It's where everyone goes and plays golf, all the wealthy people. And that was like within miles of my work. And I remember, oh my God, like I could have run into Scott Peterson while I was at work today. It was ridiculous. Yeah, and then he claimed it was from chlorine in his friend's swimming pool. Exactly. Torrey Pines. Torrey Pines, that's what it's called. Yeah. No, that is Chris Watts's kids. That was the oil drum. Yep, there's Frida and the pillows. Lindsay says that Scott is 100% guilty. Yes, I agree. Okay. So anyways, the way that things are going right now, it reminds me of Scott Peterson. Scott Peterson's parents were such enablers. They were like, no way did Scott do this. Scott Peterson, I think his mom passed away, I think. But Scott's family is still like defending him to this day. There goes the pillows. Yes. And I feel like some people refuse to see the writing on the wall. I live in Modesto, and I'll never forget the Laci Peterson case. My mom and me went to her funeral. I feel so bad for her family. I know, and I feel really bad for her mom, Sharon. Sharon was like, so, and in a lot of ways, Gabby's dad and mom are a lot like Sharon, Roca, Laci's mom, because Laci's mom was fighting tooth and nail. They found Laci because her mom didn't give up. You know, she was like relentless. She used the media. You know, I did live in San Diego in 2003 and 2004. I did. Yeah. And I worked in La Jolla. Oh, I know. She says, I feel like he's a narcissistic psychopath, so no, he won't harm himself, although he wouldn't hesitate to harm someone he might get in his way. Yeah, I feel like he would harm someone before he harms himself. Yes. Oh my God. Calling Amber Fry from the Candlelight Vigil, pretending that he was in France. France. He pretended he was in France. So my thing with his family is, if your kid is missing, if your son is really missing, if your son is really, really, really missing, even if your son is a person of interest, come hell or high water, if my son was a person of interest, even if everyone hated me, you would not be able to stop me from pounding the pavement to go look for my son. I would be trudging through those fields looking for my child. I would be plastering his face on every doorstep. I would be going to every house. I would be looking, come hell or high water, to find my son. And I am a mom of a boy, of a little boy. If my son ever did something, you know what I mean? Like, I would go and find him. They haven't even left their house. And people keep saying, well, that's because everyone hates them. And I'm like, dude, Everyone hated the Petersons and they had no problem being out in public. Everyone hated Casey Anthony and her family and they had no problem being out in public. Casey Anthony still goes bar hopping. I believe Peterson was guilty too, but I'm actually volunteering with his defense and they have very strong evidence of his innocence. Yeah, no, they don't. The defense will always find evidence that they're not guilty. Have we covered her strange last text? We talked about that yesterday, but yeah, she sent a text message to her mom about Stan and said that, talking about, can you get help from Stan? And Stan was her grandfather. And yeah, she said that she never called her Stan, and that was on the 27th. So she doesn't know who sent that. You would be begging your child to turn themselves in, trying to prevent them from getting hurt or worse. Yeah. Like, I would be going to find him. I would be trying to, because they're putting him at risk by letting him be out there, because now that it's a manhunt, if they're looking for him on this manhunt, there could be a police chase. There could be guns drawn. It could end tragically. I don't know if it was Brian sending the text messages. I don't know. Yeah, she never called her grandfather Stan. Stan is a code word for send the authorities now. I don't know that. But why? I don't know why. I think Brian sent the last text. Maybe. All right, so this is what I've got for today. We'll do something more tomorrow as information develops. These live streams, I think, are the best way to put out information. If you want to watch the video that I put out earlier today, which has the side-by-side video, I'm going to put it here. So this is the video I made today where it has the 911 call and it has clips from the dash or the body cam video. And it kind of shows you what they said versus what the witnesses said versus what police were saying. Gives you sort of a better understanding of what was in there. Check out that video that I did today. And then if I have anything more, I'll keep you posted. I will continue to stay updated on my Instagram. If you're not following me, follow me at Without a Crystal Ball. And then on Facebook at Facebook/Without a Crystal Ball. On Twitter at WOACB Official. And let me just check. Thank you to all the people that did super chats. Some of them I didn't see. If you sent a super chat and I didn't thank you personally, thank you guys so much. And give this video a thumbs up on your way out. Share this video with your friends. Thank you guys so much for all of your help. There will be a new video coming out shortly on the Duggars. And have a good night, guys.